Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've been hearing a lot from the opposition today around cabinet clubs and their great concern of what might somewhat transparently be happening in the government over here. Well, I've been fascinated as they've talked about money and influence and access to think about what is the world's largest cabinet club, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, the largest cabinet club in the world of money and influence and access is the unions which behold that crowd every day. And you know what makes it worse, Mr. Speaker? You know what makes it even worse is the constitution and structure of the New Zealand Labour Party, which allows the unions of New Zealand, to decide who the Labour Party leader is, and God forbid who could be a Labour Party Prime Minister, buying access. And you know what makes it even worse? Even worse is that the unions are taking the money from the pockets of hard-working New Zealanders, particularly in the civil service. I remember it well. They take money from hard-working Kiwis, push it onto their union hacks, and then pass it on to the hacks that sit on the other side of this house.
Order, order, order. I'm very reluctant to interrupt a member who's in a 5-minute speaking slot.
Oh.
So I'm going to allow him to start again. And I'm going to allow him to start again because I have two members who don't have the floor, who continue to interject on each other, and it's totally out of order. The member can start again. Call on member Simon O'Connor.
I won't continue to this line of vitriol per se, but I think the reminder is there. If the party opposite wants to talk about money, and they want to talk about access, and they want to talk about influence, then they must end with a conversation about the Labour Party and the roles of the unions. And I go back to that other point. It's the money taken from hard-working, ordinary Kiwis, channelled through the system. And once again, you see it.
Order.
Once again, you see it, Mr. Speaker. Once again, you see it in the constitution of the Labour Party, which gives the effective majority control to the unions to decide the leadership. And that is just shocking. Mr. Speaker, I am looking forward to this government's sixth budget. Tamaki, the fine electorate of Tamaki, is looking forward. Magnificent electorate of Tamaki. Thank you to the member. Almost as good as North Shore. And why are we looking forward to it? Because we are a positive party looking for a brighter future. We know that we sit on great news. 3% growth, with some economists forecasting even higher. We know that over 1,500 people a week are coming off welfare. And unlike the other side, which are a lot of sort of theoricians, those of us who have worked on the front line, in fact within the likes of work and income, know that 1,500 people, that's 1,500 individuals who going into work changes their lives, and this government is committed to that. To the Labour Party, it's just a number, something to be heckled at, but again, for the real hard-working, experienced people on the side, it makes a difference. 84,000 more jobs added to the economy in the last 12 months. Unemployment, ladies and gentlemen, at 6%, and it's forecast to go even lower. Contrast that with the OECD of 7.6%. And, Mr. Speaker, we're on our way to surplus. This national government promised it, and, Mr. Speaker, we will deliver it. What about the other side, though? What about the other side? Completely distracted, never focused on the issues that mattered. All we heard was rambling rhetoric. I think there was a promise of unicorns, fluffy bunnies and rainbows in there somewhat. In fact, when they even come to try and do a policy, it really has sort of been akin to a thaumaticist in an apothecary. And most people won't know what that means, and that's a good analogy if no one understands what their policies mean. It'll care less. Well, actually, I quite like the word apothecary. What policies? Well, it's a shocker. But we do know higher taxes from the Labour Greens. More taxes through their emission trading scheme, and have no illusion, New Zealand, that things like the emission trading scheme, capital gains taxes, changes to KiwiSaver are cost to you. They want to nationalise the electricity system, and I hear the other day that now I think the Greens in particular are against milk products and logs. I mean, what are we left with in this country? And really, they also want to spend like troopers. Well, we are a prudent government, Mr. Speaker. We are a prudent government. We have capped effectively up to a new $1 billion of spending because we know it is the prudent and right thing to do, and the majority of Kiwis understand this, and that's why the Labour Party and their union mates are polling under 30%. And continuing to go down. That's why I assert Mr. Jones. jumped. But what about the wins? We've seen some prefigurings. Or pushed, as my honourable colleague notes, national wins. We're looking at some really serious positive wins for Kiwis at the moment. $6.3 million over 4 years for bilateral cochlear implants. As someone who's worked with it, $6.3 million. As someone who's worked in the health system, what a difference that makes. I would like to suggest we probably can't find the money, that we probably need some implants for the opposition so they can truly hear the wants of New Zealanders. We heard from Paula Bennett, $10.4 million in new operating funding to support sexual violence services. Absolutely critical, absolutely important. As someone who has worked in the community for years, and I think particularly working as a chaplain at Mount Eden Prison, the abuse, the violence that happens to our most vulnerable, it's critical we get in early to make a real difference. But as I turn towards the end, because I am conscious of time, Mr. Speaker, I want to turn to Tamaki. There are many, many local wins that this government has delivered to the people of Tamaki and will continue to do so. $3 million to St Thomas's School for new buildings. Ultra-fast broadband to our schools. We have the Tamaki Transformation Project, an agreement between government and the council, working with the Auckland Chamber of Commerce around a career start program. A Career Start program, a cooperation of the Tamaki Transformation Project, government and council, to help young people into jobs, Mr. Speaker. New housing in Glen Innes and Panmure, the electrification of rail, all good news.
The time for this debate has expired, and so I'm going to move to private and local orders of the day. So I call on...
Point of order, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you, Mr. Mallard, for pointing that out to me. Appreciate that. I call the honourable member Eugenie Say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I seek the leave of the House to have a correction to the record of the voting on the urgency motion yesterday on the Psychoactive Substances Bill. The Mana Party's vote should have been recorded as supporting that motion, not